Welcome back to WNBA Hoops TV. Today, we're diving into a story that has basketball fans talking everywhere. Because when the Indiana Fever stepped onto the court against the New York Liberty, few people could have predicted the kind of night that would follow. This wasn't supposed to be an ordinary game. On one side stood the New York Liberty, one of the WNBA's most formidable teams and a franchise loaded with elite talent. On the other was an Indiana Fever team carrying enormous expectations, led by one of the biggest stars in women's basketball, Caitlin Clark. But as the game unfolded, something extraordinary appeared to be happening. The Fever weren't just competing, they were taking control. Possession by possession, the momentum shifted. The crowd reacted. The Liberty searched for answers. And at the center of the action were two players whose chemistry and energy seemed to change the entire atmosphere: Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham. By the final stretch, fans weren't simply talking about a victory. They were talking about records, historic numbers, a performance that had suddenly become bigger than one regular season game. But here is where the story becomes even more interesting. When headlines claim that players shattered 10 WNBA records, the details matter. Some records may be official league records. Others may be franchise records, game-specific milestones, statistical combinations, or achievements highlighted by broadcasters and analysts. And that distinction can completely change the story. So what really happened on that unforgettable night? How did Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham help the Fever overpower one of the league's most talented opponents? And why did this performance create such an explosive reaction across the basketball world? Because to understand the significance of that night, we have to look beyond the final score. We have to understand what the Indiana Fever had been building toward. And we have to go back to where this story truly began. The arrival of Caitlin Clark changed the atmosphere around the Indiana Fever almost immediately. Long before she played her first professional game, expectations were already enormous. Clark had entered the WNBA after one of the most closely watched careers in college basketball history. Her deep shooting range, extraordinary passing ability, and ability to perform under pressure had turned her into a household name. But professional basketball presented an entirely different challenge. The WNBA is filled with experienced veterans. Defenders are stronger. The games are faster. The margins between winning and losing are smaller. And every opponent quickly learns how to attack a young star's weaknesses. Clark's transition was never going to be simple. She had to adjust. She had to learn. She had to develop chemistry with new teammates. And she had to do all of that while playing under a spotlight unlike almost anything the league had previously experienced. Every game became an event. Every great performance generated headlines. And every difficult night created another round of debate. But as the Fever continued developing, something important began to change. The team was no longer simply waiting for one player to carry everything. The roster began developing its own identity. That is where Sophie Cunningham became an increasingly important part of the conversation. Cunningham brought experience, confidence, and an edge that fit naturally into the intensity of professional basketball. She wasn't expected to be Caitlin Clark. She didn't need to be. Her value came from bringing her own personality and strengths to the floor. And as the chemistry between teammates developed, Indiana became more dangerous. That is one of the most important elements of building a successful basketball team. Talent alone isn't enough. A roster can be filled with outstanding players and still struggle if the pieces don't connect. Great teams learn how to trust each other. They understand where teammates want the ball. They recognize when someone has momentum. They know when to attack and when to slow down. Those connections are built through practices, difficult losses, film sessions, and countless possessions that rarely appear in highlight videos. By the time Indiana faced New York, the stakes surrounding the matchup had grown. The Liberty represented a major test. This was the kind of opponent that could expose weaknesses immediately. Against elite competition, mistakes become points for the other team. Slow rotations get punished. Poor shooting decisions create transition opportunities. A single cold stretch can change an entire game. For the Fever, this wasn't just another chance to win. It was an opportunity to demonstrate how far the team had come. And then the game began. From the opening moments, Indiana played with urgency. The ball moved. The offense found rhythm. Defensively, the Fever fought for stops. And as the game continued, Caitlin Clark began doing what she does best. She saw passing lanes before they appeared. She pushed the pace. She created opportunities that forced defenders to make impossible decisions. Guard her closely and she could find an open teammate. Give her space and her shooting range could punish the defense. Send multiple defenders, and the floor suddenly opened somewhere else. That is the challenge of defending a player with Clark's combination of range and vision. But this story wasn't about one player. That was the difference. Sophie Cunningham and the rest of the Fever became part of the attack. Every successful possession added pressure. Every defensive stop created momentum. And slowly, the Liberty found themselves facing a version of Indiana that looked increasingly confident. Then came the moments that truly changed the atmosphere. The Fever began extending their advantage. The game that had started as a competitive battle began moving towards something far more dramatic. Fans watching closely started recognizing the possibility of historic statistical achievements. Numbers accumulated, milestones approached, and suddenly what mattered wasn't simply whether Indiana would win. The question became, how big was this performance going to become? For Clark, historic nights have always attracted enormous attention. That has been true since her college career. But the WNBA presents a different kind of challenge because records are earned against the best players in the world. Every achievement carries additional weight. Every milestone becomes part of a larger legacy. And when those achievements happen during a dominant victory against an elite opponent, the impact becomes even greater. Meanwhile, Cunningham's role added another fascinating dimension to the story. Basketball history is filled with superstar performances. But some of the most memorable games happen when an entire team catches fire around its biggest name. That is when opponents become truly vulnerable. They can't simply focus their defensive strategy on one player. Stopping Clark isn't enough if Cunningham is finding opportunities. Containing one scorer doesn't solve the problem if the rest of the lineup is moving the ball and executing. That is what makes team chemistry so dangerous. And against New York, Indiana appeared to discover another level. But just when it seemed the Fever had complete control, the pressure intensified. Because dominating a game is one thing. Finishing it is another. The Liberty had too much talent to simply disappear. A single run could change the momentum. A few turnovers could bring the game back to life. And for Indiana, the final stage would become the ultimate test. Could Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham finish what they had started? Could the Fever turn a remarkable performance into one of their most memorable statements yet? And just how many records were truly about to fall? Because the final chapter of this game was about to take the story from impressive to unforgettable. But the final score of 106-92 only told part of the story. Because as the night unfolded, the Indiana Fever weren't simply beating the New York Liberty. They were sending a message to the entire WNBA. Caitlin Clark controlled the game with 22 points and 10 assists, recording yet another 20-point, 10-assist performance. Kelsey Mitchell exploded for 28 points, while Sophie Cunningham added 12 as Indiana turned an elite matchup into a statement victory. The Fever were nearly unstoppable from the perimeter, hitting 16 of 25 three-pointers, while also shooting a perfect 19-for-19 from the free throw line. And Clark's performance carried historical significance beyond the final score. Reports following the game highlighted multiple major career milestones, including another 20-point, 10-assist game and further movement up the WNBA record books. But what made this performance even more dangerous for the rest of the league was the balance. New York couldn't simply throw its entire defense at Caitlin Clark. If they pressured Clark, Mitchell punished them. If they tried to contain the guards, Indiana's spacing created opportunities everywhere else. And when Sophie Cunningham entered the action, her energy added another layer to a Fever team that suddenly looked faster, more confident, and far more difficult to defend. By halftime, Indiana had built a massive advantage, fueled by scorching three-point shooting. New York attempted to fight its way back, cutting into the lead during the second half. But every time the Liberty appeared ready to create momentum, the Fever responded. That was the difference. This wasn't a lucky shooting night. This was a team playing with rhythm, a team trusting its stars, and a team beginning to understand exactly how dangerous it can be when Caitlin Clark is healthy, Mitchell is scoring, and the supporting cast is hitting shots. For New York, the loss raised uncomfortable questions. The Liberty had entered the matchup as one of the league's most dangerous teams, featuring stars like Sabrina Ionescu, Breanna Stewart, and Jonquil Jones. But against Indiana, even their combined talent wasn't enough to slow the Fever's offensive avalanche. Stewart and Ionescu each scored 19 points, while Jones finished with 14 points and 10 rebounds. But Indiana's backcourt pressure and offensive efficiency proved too much. And then there was Caitlin Clark. Every assist seemed to create another problem. Every deep shot stretched the defense. Every possession reminded New York that defending Clark isn't just about stopping one player. It's about surviving everything that happens after the defense reacts to her. That may be the most terrifying development for the rest of the WNBA, because the Indiana Fever are no longer depending on one superstar to carry them. They are becoming a complete offensive machine. And after blowing out the Liberty, the question was no longer whether Indiana could compete with the league's best. The question was much bigger. Are Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, Kelsey Mitchell, and the Indiana Fever becoming the team nobody wants to face when the games matter most? Because if this performance was a preview of what's coming next, the rest of the WNBA may have just been warned. Part 3. But this victory meant more than another number in the win column. Because when the final buzzer sounded, the Indiana Fever had done something that could change the entire conversation around the WNBA playoff race. The Fever moved to 21-12, while New York fell to 20-14. Even more importantly, Indiana had now won 2 of the 3 meetings against the Liberty that season. And suddenly, this rivalry looked very different. For months, teams around the league had watched Caitlin Clark develop into one of basketball's most dangerous offensive engines. But now, she wasn't carrying Indiana alone. Kelsey Mitchell was exploding for 28 points. Sophie Cunningham was bringing energy, toughness, and timely scoring. Aaliyah Boston was helping anchor the team inside. And Clark was doing what makes her truly dangerous, making everyone around her better. Against New York, Clark finished with 22 points and 10 assists, while Mitchell added 28 and Cunningham scored 12. The Fever's 16-4-25 shooting from three-point range was a major reason they built a huge early advantage and never truly lost control. But perhaps the most important moment came away from the box score. The Fever had been surrounded by outside controversy and pressure. Head coach Stephanie White had faced criticism, and the team entered the game with plenty of noise surrounding them. Instead of allowing that drama to divide the locker room, Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham publicly backed their coach after the victory. Clark made it clear that the team was standing together. That message mattered, because championship teams aren't only tested when everything is going well. They're tested when the pressure rises, when criticism gets louder, when distractions threaten to become bigger than basketball. And on this night, Indiana responded by playing some of its best basketball of the season. Reports after the game emphasized the team's unity, with both Clark and Cunningham supporting White despite the controversy surrounding the franchise. That could be the biggest takeaway from the Liberty blowout. Not just the points, not just the threes, not even the records and milestones. It was the fact that Indiana looked connected. Every big shot seemed to create more confidence. Every defensive stop created more momentum. And every time New York tried to fight back, the Fever answered. For the Liberty, the loss exposed a serious problem. They had the star power. They had Breanna Stewart. They had Sabrina Ionescu. They had Jonquil Jones. But on this night, Indiana's offensive pace was simply too much. New York struggled to contain Clark and Mitchell, while Stewart had an inefficient shooting night as the Liberty failed to match the Fever's perimeter attack. And that is why the rest of the league should be paying attention. Because Indiana is no longer simply a team with Caitlin Clark. They are becoming a legitimate threat with multiple weapons. If defenses focus on Clark, Mitchell can explode. If they chase Indiana's shooters, the floor opens up inside. And if the game becomes physical or emotional, Cunningham brings an edge that can change the energy instantly. That balance is what makes great teams dangerous. But there was still one question hanging over the entire night. Was this simply one incredible shooting performance? Or was Indiana showing the WNBA what the Fever are about to become? Because if Caitlin Clark continues controlling games like this, if Kelsey Mitchell keeps scoring at an elite level, and if Sophie Cunningham continues bringing the fire and confidence that has made her such a major presence on this team, then the Indiana Fever may be entering their most dangerous stretch yet. And after what New York just experienced, the rest of the WNBA might be starting to realize it. Because the Fever aren't asking for respect anymore. If this game proved anything, it's that the Indiana Fever are no longer a team waiting for the future. The future may already be here. Caitlin Clark is rewriting expectations. Sophie Cunningham is bringing the fire. And with the rest of the Fever stepping up, Indiana is becoming one of the most dangerous teams in the WNBA. But now we want to hear from you. Was this victory over New York a one-time statement? Or are the Indiana Fever officially becoming a real championship threat? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next big WNBA story. Because if this season has taught us anything, the next chapter could be even crazier. See you in the next one.